Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, which is being jointly hosted by 6Connex and MediaPlatform. The focus of today's webinar is how organizations can create immersive, highly engaging virtual environments for their enterprise events. In addition to the how-to component of this webinar, we'll also be introducing the 6Connex virtual trade show platform, as well as MediaPlatform's live webcasting platform. Before jumping into introductions, I did want to take care of one administrative detail. You should see a Q&A box at the bottom center of your screen. Please feel free to submit any questions at any time during this webinar, and we'll make sure to reserve time at the end to answer them. With that, why don't we jump into a round of introductions? Ruben, would you mind starting us off?
My pleasure, Mike, and welcome everyone. Greetings. Such a pleasure to be with you and amongst the panel. This is Ruben Castaño, and I'm in the fortunate position to lead the organization of 6Connex, and super grateful for the opportunity to share our general thoughts and ideas over the next 60 minutes.
Jakob, you want to jump in?
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I'm Joachim Jonsson. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at 6Connex. I've been with 6Connex for 7 years and in the industry since '99, so a dinosaur, I guess. But very excited to be here today to talk about the new partnerships and how we see things changing here last year and the year coming. So very excited. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think dinosaur segues nicely into my introduction of myself. I am the CEO of MediaPlatform and a longtime participant in the webcasting video content management industry. Going back a little bit more than 20 years, I was the founder and CEO of a company called Accordant Technologies, which was very focused on developing large webcasting platforms for large live webcasts. We were acquired by Polycom, where I spent 3 years running their video content management business unit, and then was fortunate enough to be able to join MediaPlatform as their CEO, and I've been in that role for about 5 years. I used the term dinosaur, and I think I saw Bill's image that was completely inappropriate. He is youthful as ever, but Bill, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. My name is Bill Acola. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success at MediaPlatform. So I work on the tech support side of things, as well as the professional services side. I've been with the company about 9.5 years. So we're all dinosaurs.
So going to the next slide, I think before we jump into the actual details of the partnership, we thought it might be worthwhile to just quickly introduce why we joined forces. Certainly webcasting has been around for 20 years, and for much of that time, it didn't really interact too much with the virtual trade show space. But with COVID, some really clear property lines disappeared. On the one hand, you had companies like MediaPlatform that were focused on employee communications. They were behind the firewall. They were focused on being, very secure. And then you had other use cases like marketing communications, you had sales enablement, you had virtual conferences and virtual trade shows. And with COVID, as all these employees were sent home, as the lines of behind the firewall delivery and CDN public delivery were washed away, and as really all in-person group events were done away with, you just saw a bunch of different companies looking for different ways to bring their content to these new audiences. And so, from our perspective, we work with subject matter experts in corporate communications and so forth, IT, delivery, and all of a sudden they were like, Mike, we used to be just the employee communications experts, and now we're being looked at as all things video, and we're supposed to be doing 4 conferences and 3 trade shows online in the next 12 months. What should we use? So, we were drinking from a fire hose as well. We weren't that familiar with the virtual trade show space. And we did a ton of due diligence, probably about 3 months worth. I had a team of 5 people internally. We were talking to analysts. And there were a few companies that really percolated to the top of that list based on our requirements were, very high production value, very scalable, highly customizable, would reflect the brands of our customers really, really well. and 6Connex rose to the top of that list. And fortunately, as we felt confident enough to advise our customers that we found some interesting companies, most notably 6Connex, to look at, they were coming to us and saying the exact same thing. We found this platform that was purpose-built for trade shows. We really like it, but we'd love to get your validation as well. So, that for us was a way of saying, we probably have found the right solution for us to integrate into. And along the way, learned a heck of a lot about virtual events, virtual trade shows, virtual conferences. And with that, Ruben, I'll turn it over to you to kind of give your perspective on how this partnership originated.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mike. For me, it's coming from a different lens, right? So as you point out, we came specifically a purposely built tool set, which is a virtual environment. And frankly, if you go back over a year ago, this industry that we're in was very much a niche industry, and it was a pointed solution offering, and it was highly targeted to organizations that were looking to go over and beyond to their customer base, a special touch, a special advancement to combine digital and physical and provide additional color opportunity. And what COVID and the pandemic ultimately brought to the industry was the realization of the digital transformation, which validated the opportunity that a digital experience can provide, and the robust data that it can bring. So suddenly you come in from a niche industry to what has become now very mainstream. It allowed us, as we're going through the process, to get enormous amount of learnings and a validation as to where we are building the right thing. But where and what are the areas that we need to invest in? And there's no doubt a key component of the overall solution offering is driving that engagement piece, driving that collaboration piece. So a tool offering that this provides, and this partnership that this provides, is just another advanced area within our environment that promotes that overall mission for our organization. So it was just logical to add just another set of functionality into our environment, into our experience. Let me take it to the next slide just so I can share with you. What I'd like to do is dive just a couple of minutes into 6Connex, and then Joachim Janssen is going to review more the detail around the product. And if I can try to highlight our organization just to give you a little foundation setting, we are roughly an organization with 250 plus employees and north of 600 customers. And these customers touch all corners of the world. It supports a large volume of languages and a large set of enterprise multinational companies. And really for our organization and the true partnerships that we provide to our customer base is a mission of driving mass audiences and mass content into a secure, scalable, personalized virtual venue that ultimately produces some actionable insights all through a robust set of features that bleeds into engagement and collaboration, i.e. this partnership, and including some advanced AI technology as well. And these actionable insights ultimately create a favorable conversion. And that's really the premise that we look to create in our platform. So our deep investments is into how much we can continue to advance that engagement to produce those actionable insights, creating some conversions. If you jump to the next slide, and these use cases are across the board. We're really agnostic in our way in our go-to-market. They from the financial industry to large corporations in CPG. Ultimately, roughly 80 to 90% of our use cases are around sales and marketing, lead generation, all around this digital transformation, and that's where the majority of it. But it doesn't mean it's not applied in other areas. As the pandemic showed us last year, it could be smaller gatherings, smaller events, banquets, corporate meetings, etc. Ultimately driving that engagement and collaboration in that digital transformation. So we're excited about the partnership. We're excited to demonstrate a little bit of what our product can do. And here's a good segue to my colleague Joachim to give you a little insight into that.
Yeah, thank you, Ruben. And to just sort of set the scene, and you will see our platform and you will see the media platform webcast functioning inside of our platform in a demo in a few minutes. But just to set the scene, we as Ruben mentioned, we see ourselves as this conference venue in the cloud. So if you think about the Yerba Buena Center in San Francisco, Sala de Cristal in Madrid, we're that venue. Now, you can do so many different types of conferences inside of a venue, the same with our virtual environments platform. Of course, you need content and audience to make that a successful event. So you see here starting from the left on the image, and this partnership is one for one of these reasons, to deliver highly engaging keynote presentations into this venue. But the virtual venue, we normally say it has 3 layers. So that's what we deliver. We deliver a highly immersive visual layer. So that's so that you can brand that experience to be exactly what you like in terms of colors and branding, but also settings. So is it a large meeting or a small meeting? And it helps the audience to know what is expected of them. Because if I come into an auditorium, I think I'm probably just going to a little bit more passively take in a keynote, whilst if I come into a networking lounge or into a booth, here I'm probably going to engage a little bit more. So it helps to set that expectation, and that comes through to our second layer here, the interactive layer, the engagement layer. And this is where we stand out from just providing a list of webcasts or a list of videos for someone to watch. It's really about getting engagement out of this. And we know that the more engagement we can get, the longer people stay, and the longer people stay, we go into the final layer, the data layer. That means that we know more about the people that come to this virtual conference, and then those reports can be taken out and ending up in data destinations where the clients want to look at that. So if we then go on to the next slide, and this is really highlighting the partnership that we're announcing here today. And at the bottom you see the 3 layers that I spoke about, but also a little bit about our platform. But we've always regarded ourselves as a sort of we don't want to build a walled city. We want to be an open universe, and we want to, like I said, create a very engaging experience. Now, to do that, part of our strategy is to go out and integrate with lots of different tools out there, and the partnership with Media Platform it makes so much sense. We have a lot of our clients are using our platform for internal communication and the ability to be able to deliver engaging and high quality keynote presentations into a large organization. It really makes sense. So that's us growing what we call sort of our open universe. And if we then go to the next slide, you can see again you have our 3 layers on the left, but on the right hand side you see our 3 different products in our product family. So we have just very recently announced our 6Connex launch, which is an easy to use and fast to deploy virtual events platform. It's a self-service platform that clients can really pick up and very quickly spin up a virtual environment. Something that typically, if you look at other colleagues in the industry or other platforms, it takes weeks to set up. Now with 6Connex launch, we can do that in a matter of minutes. I think in the demo when we launched it, it took 3 minutes to set up. So that's sort of the entry level, and then you have enterprise level. We have Rise and Soar, which are our enterprise offering. That's all the three have the 3 layers, but the Rise and Soar has much more customization when it comes to the look and feel, and when it comes to the functionality and the room structure that you can build up in your virtual environments. So talking about sort of, you see on the slide, and I'm pointing at my screen, but you see it on your screen. You see a small version of an environment. But let's jump to the next slide, because here you can really. I wanted to talk about 2 specific use cases where I think will be really good for the work that we're doing together, the 2 companies here. So this we've seen. The last year here a pretty new use case that we didn't really see in the industry before, and that's sort of the ability to create team building events or and to drive corporate culture in a new world where we onboard people without never having met them, and we have colleagues all around the world that we don't meet in person. So how do you build culture when you never meet, and how do you get the teams to pull together? And we've seen so many of our clients now starting to use our virtual environment for this specific internal use case to build that culture, and the part of that is, of course, to deliver engaging presentations, so that there the partnership will do really well. And we can take the next slide here, and coming back a little bit to what Ruben said on personalized virtual environments. So one of the things that came out of last year was there's a lot of new companies that started to use the virtual events that maybe had not had so much experience with that beforehand. And the transition generally went well. In fact, it went a lot better than many people feared, I think. And the feedback we got is the sort of, well, the core, the delivering of keynotes, setting up of different booths, and that's working really well. But what we want is more engagement. We want networking. We want people to talk together. So we specifically focused on that. We looked at sort of how we could bring in AI into this, look at profiles of users, look at what they're doing inside of the virtual event, and then recommend that they meet or schedule meeting with each other. And this has been a really great turnout when we've now very recently launched a few new modules on that personalized virtual environment, the attendee-centric modules. So I think I'm going to hand it back here, but I think that on the note of creating those engagement and making sure that we're delivering interactive experiences. So back over to you.
Thank you. And that was a great introduction to 6Connex. I think one of the key themes is certainly engagement, but quickly, I just want to introduce Media Platform at a more general level because, as COVID impacted organizations, everybody went online and started to use video, and there was a temptation to try and solve every problem for every company as opposed to remaining focused and really understanding where you could provide the greatest value. Media Platform has really been hyper-focused on the largest enterprises, the Global 2000, where they have internal subject matter experts. They're delivering internally and externally. They may have studios that they leverage. And so I know with 6Connex, they solve problems for companies across the spectrum, small and medium-sized businesses, as well as very large organizations. And for us, with our focus, we wanted to make sure we had the right partner we could bring into those organizations where they'd not only get the right product, but they'd get the right services and support to ensure their success. So really quickly about Media Platform, there are four key pillars to our platform. The first of which is being able to produce very high quality, visually rich, engaging live webcast experiences. So that production capability. Segueing from that, because oftentimes this is strategic content that's highly valuable to the organization, we're providing a layer of security around that, authentication, some organizational capabilities for archive content. Additionally, and this is a very important area of differentiation for us, we're enabling intelligent distribution. So being able to leverage your eCDN as well as CDN delivery for this hybrid work environment that we're moving towards to ensure you're extracting the most amount of value and scalability out of your infrastructure investments, and that you're not having failures along the way, because this is highly visible, highly important content. And then lastly, something we're both talking about today is analytics, and being able to show and measure the impact this content is having to the organization. And so, as you take a step back, what is the purpose of this this information? It's really to keep your employees informed. It's to keep the executives in a thought leadership position. It's to keep your value proposition and your brand in front of prospects and partners. And therein really lies kind of the catalyst behind our partnership, wanting to deliver, whether it's at the video layer or at sort of this grander virtual trade show experience layer, a really high level of experience that reflects the value and of that brand that these companies have built over years and years. And so, if you can quickly transition to the next slide, and then I'll turn it over to Bill to help me out with some of the more technical details. But quickly, our customer use cases, the fundamental use case historically has been that CEO town hall meeting. Certainly, when you have success at that level and you're webcasting out to 50,000, 75,000 simultaneous viewers, you're providing all sorts of interactivity, you're providing sentiment measurement and tracking, you're providing quality of service measurements. It's pretty easy for a solution like that to propagate into different use cases throughout the organization, from training to internal marketing and so forth. But additionally, as employees moved outside the firewall, we very naturally moved to an environment where you could leverage CDN delivery, and also via the hard work we've put into this partnership to ensure a seamless integration, an ability to really participate in a virtual event virtual trade show experience that not only had the highest quality movie theater, if you will, but the highest quality content showing on those screens, the type of content that, in our parlance would be called the keynote addresses, the types of content that create urgency and that can bring in large audiences into a central environment. And so lastly, again, being able to capture all of the analytics around that, because engagement can be a kind of squishy term if you don't have the metrics that are measuring how long people are in certain environments, how they're interacting, what they're putting into their digital wallets and things like that. And so, certainly while we felt we had very comprehensive analytics and reporting for our traditional use cases, we were very pleased to see what 6Connex could supplement those analytics with. It just gave a complete 360-degree view of what people were doing in those environments and how they were interacting with the content that was being produced using our platform. Segueing to the next slide, Bill, I think if you could get into sort of the mechanics of this rich interactive experience that we've worked so hard to be able to produce, that would be great.
You bet. Thanks, Mike. So engagement, it's very difficult to keep people engaged these days. We all know that from sitting down on our couches and watching television. We'll end up picking up our phone, picking up our tablet computer, and we're engaged all over the place. So in these virtual environments, it's important. You want your viewers to pay attention and stay engaged. And we've built a lot of tools around that. So the templates that can be used are very dynamic. You can change templates during an event, and we are changing a template now, so you will see an example of that. You can have different layouts with different components on them. So maybe you have one layout with just a video window, one layout with video and slides, one layout with video and polls or surveys. You can add third-party components through iframes into the layouts, and then you can change through those layouts during the event just to keep people, watching. Hey, what's coming next? And then through Q&A and polling, you can actually have them interact. In addition, obviously, the environments are highly brandable, and you can set up the color scheme to match your 6Connex world. So it's not, when you transition between the 6Connex world and the media platform world, it's not a hard transition for the viewers. It's just seamless, both visually and technically. So the next slide, we're going to talk about a couple of pieces of the media platform puzzle that we use to measure success of an event. And that is our VBI product, which captures real-time analytics from the viewers at a technical level. So how is the viewing experience of the video itself? Or is the viewer buffering? What stream did they watch? Technical things about the actual performance of the video delivered to that viewer. It's put into a dashboard that can be drilled into in a whole lot of different ways to see how the overall experience was. In addition to that, we have our ESD product, and that's the Event Success Dashboard. That will bring in metrics from the webcast itself as well as VBI, but it also layers in viewer sentiments. So viewers are presented with the ability to click icons or emojis to say, I like this, I love this, I have a question, I don't understand, that type of thing. As the viewers click, the data is captured and it's put into a timeline. And in the dashboard, you can see how people are clicking in real time. Once the event is over, you can actually go to the timeline. Hey, the audience really liked it when at 5 minutes and 10 seconds. You can click that timeline. It'll take you into the recording and show you exactly what was being said at that time. So it's a very powerful tool. And between the two tools, it really gives a 360-degree view of how the event went from both a technical side as well as a content reception by the viewers, if that makes sense. So pretty neat. So now, if we go to the actual integration that was done between the two companies, we're going to run a little video here that actually shows what a viewer would see. There's two things that I'm going to talk about: what the viewer goes through, and then technically how the integration is set up. While this video plays, I'll start with the technical integration, which it's easy. You just say, hey, integrate my broadcaster account with 6Connex, and once we pass that over to a developer, the configuration can be done in 10 minutes. Now, for the viewer side, what this video is showing is the integration is seamless. The viewer doesn't do anything special. The viewer just goes into the 6Connex world, navigates around. When they get to the navigation point that takes them into the media platform world, they just click and they're transported in seamlessly. So they're auto-registered and everything happens behind the curtains. So technically, super easy to set up in both a back-end and a viewer side of things. So with that, I think we will jump into a quick case study. And we're going to keep the customer in this private, but the customer did run down how they use 6Connex and MediaPlatform together, and the results that they got were actually pretty stunning. The customer itself is a Fortune 500 company that is very well known. When COVID hit, they had to migrate their real, in-person events to the virtual space, and they needed to be able to handle multiple events running at the same time. So breakout rooms, different live events covering different topics going on at the same time. And they had to address distinct market segments and market partners along the way. Obviously, with any virtual or conference, the focal point is the keynote session. So the integration, we set it up between the two companies, and it drew no attention. Right? That's what you want. It was completely seamless for the viewers. There was no friction navigating between the two companies' products. It just worked. Now, the results of the move from the in-person conference to the virtual conference was quite staggering. It resulted in a 6-fold increase in ROI for this customer. 6 times ROI improvement, which nobody would have projected that. When COVID hit and the move online happened, you just hoped people were going to show up. And to get a 6-fold increase is, quite staggering and great. So, this customer is actually looking to move, more of their in-person events to the virtual world due to that dramatic increase in ROI. It reduces the budgets needed on the customer side because they don't have to fly to an event, and it reduces costs across the board. So pretty impressive.
Hey, Bill.
Yep.
Do you mind if I jump in? Because I think you've hit on something, really important, which is, over the last year and a half or so, we've seen a lot of what I would term Band-Aid communications, where companies were in sort of this triage mode. They were just trying to figure out how to replace something that had sort of abruptly disappeared. So I think the ROI is, really, really important, because you may have companies that were forced into a certain way of communicating. Maybe, inertia was making that painful, but now, the data is suggesting this is here to stay. And I know, at the time when we were doing the integration and behind the scenes, the integration was pretty rigorous. I'm glad it became seamless, as an outcome that we can go in and implement very, very quickly. But what I think is really important is we did have this flagship customer that was driving the integration. We were not doing it in a vacuum. We were not trying to predict what the market may want. We were not trying to, be smarter than the people out there who are really trying to solve important problems. And they drove the integration. And I'm so happy to see the ROI they got, because it's very consistent with the ROI that many of our other customers and prospects are looking to achieve. And they are demonstrating a long-term commitment to this type of communication. So I think from a technical perspective, based on what the end customer might see, it almost could be a little bit underwhelming. It's so seamless, like where does one thing stop and the other one start? But from a value proposition perspective, and being able to bring this high quality content into this incredibly customized, rich, engaging environment from 6Connex is really important.
Yeah, if I could chime in there, Mike, I'm just saying that we very often see average engagement times leading into several hours, which me coming from sort of the webcast world, it's hard to get people watching a single webcast for 3-4 hours in a row. But when you're presenting them with these all other things that they can do, they can go and network with each other peer-to-peer. They can go and speak with experts in different solution booths. They can go to different breakout sessions. They can design their own agenda. So it's not no one is telling them exactly what they need to do, but you're in charge. And I think that's when we see that higher engagement that leads to greater ROI, like you said, 6 times for your clients. And I think the reason is that people just stay longer because there's more to do, and there's maybe if I'm an information junkie, then I want all the details. But if I'm more, I just want the overview, but then I want to connect with people. But then there's that for me as well. So I think given the choice back to the attendee, I think that's something that we can do when we present this interactive content from your platform together with sort of the immersiveness of ours.
Well, and one important metric I wanted to add was, their conversion rate was much, much higher as far as invitees to attendees, and that factored in to the ROI analysis as well. So, Bill, I don't know if there was any more you wanted to add on the customer case study. I kind of interjected myself, but if not, we can kind of summarize things and everybody can sort of weigh in. Maybe I'll start. As I said at the outset, our customers generally have really valuable brands. They have really skilled employees that they want to keep highly engaged. They're in important businesses, and they want their communications to reflect that drive to really achieve high quality. And so for us, everything we do has to be consistent with that, whether it's our own platform or the partners we choose to go to market with. And I have to tell you, it was a huge validation to be able to go into some of these companies that have the resources to do their own analyses and to have found that they were drawing the same conclusions we were. And I know 6Connex has other partners that may serve, other use cases and maybe, small, medium-sized markets more effectively than we might with our platform. And conversely, I think, we've carved out a really nice joint solution for those companies at really the top tier that are willing to invest the time and resources in producing really highly scalable events. And one thing we haven't talked about too much is, these events, these environments, they can persist. And so it really justifies making that significant investment from a quality perspective, because there's nothing to prevent one of these environments from serving as, something for 6 weeks, a trade show environment that persists for 6 weeks, a learning environment that may persist for a year. And so there are a lot of great use cases that really continue to provide an ROI. And from our perspective, it's been a really exciting partnership because it's been one that we haven't had to justify in a vacuum. It's been one that's justified itself among our customers and the success that they've enjoyed. And that certainly makes the product management piece of this a lot easier. Ruben, Joaquin, if there's anything, or Bill, that you'd like to add in summary.
Yeah, I can jump in, Mike, and I echo much of what you're talking about. Look, in general, the industry and the market is a journey for all of us, and that journey means a lot of learnings, and up to us as industry leaders to help define what that's going to look like. And as part of that journey is ensuring that we adapt to and listen to our customer base, and a perfect example use case, and know where are the areas to invest in and build amongst all the technology vendors out in the market. And for us, we see video conference and video collaboration as a growing avenue for our customer base. It is a necessary opportunity within, as you stated, Mike, a perpetual virtual venue that one can continue to use, and that video collaboration becomes a key component of that overall engagement. If we're going to be able to drive audiences and if we're going to be able to drive content, you must provide the tools available for them to engage in order to drive those actionable insights and the conversions that Bill was alluding to in that use case. And for us, this is a great advancement towards that journey. It's a great partnership that moves the needle further. But like I said, this is a journey. This is not a given event and go to market with what you have. It continues to be a journey, and we look forward to partnering and learning together as to what the opportunity can provide for all of us.
Thank you. If there's nothing else that anybody would like to add at this time, I say we open the floor up for any questions that may have been submitted or continue to be submitted via the Q&A feature.
Okay, we've had some questions coming in during the webcast. The first one is, how can I make sure audiences in various time zones and locations have the chance to engage with audiences elsewhere?
I think, is that a 6Connex question?
Yeah, we very often run events that sort of follow the sun. So starting in Asia and following on with Europe and the Americas. So I think it's you can't get around that there are time zones, so you have to plan the agenda accordingly. I think the opportunity here is to actually get them to engage, which those regions typically wouldn't do unless you would fly people from Asia to Americas, or so, I mean, very costly. So the opportunity here is that those different time zones can now engage, and that's the exciting piece. You have to plan about it. You have to think about sort of, when do I put my keynote out so that everyone can see it, and maybe then looking at rerunning a certain part of the key parts of the agenda. But the very common to follow the sun models, and the big opportunities to get those regions to speak to each other.
Well, an added benefit too is, I mean, it being a persistent environment, the audience themselves can kind of dictate when they want to meet and which components of your solution they'd like to use to facilitate that, which is fantastic. You really get to support all different types of interactions among the attendees.
Okay, next question. How do you see the future of virtual environments after COVID?
This is probably perfect for you, Joachim, but it's an exciting future. I should comment. The buzzword in the industry quite often is this hybrid type of event, but ultimately a virtual event is going to be an event. The opportunity is there for reaching a broader audience. The opportunity is there for economic impact. The opportunity is there for carbon footprint impact, and all that is being recognized. So the opportunity is exciting, and it's not a matter of if it exists after COVID, but how best to execute and make it overall part of your strategy.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not from that industry. I've had to learn a lot about it. And I think when you have limited resources, you have to be cynical about everything you're thinking about potentially putting on the product roadmap. And it's been an extraordinary learning experience to see the benefit the companies are deriving from virtual trade show platforms, and the way their mindsets are changing to see the benefits as opposed to seeing them as something almost adversarial to in-person trade shows. I mean, really over the last year, you've seen the way people conduct information exchange in a very different and I think permanent way, which is not to say that in-person trade shows are the enemy or that they don't serve a purpose. It's more to say that there is a very, very good solution for supporting the congregation of people online that will provide a really high ROI.
And to finish it off, I was to also comment on that. We don't have to finish the webcast right just yet, but to further comment on that, we definitely see sort of there was a steep learning curve for many organizations last year, and virtual is not the same as physical, but it turned out that it's actually a lot better than people feared. So I think the question on sort of where do we end up after the pandemic, I think it's now proven that we don't have to be afraid to do virtual conferences. They don't necessarily have to cannibalize your physical conference, but instead it can open up. And there are so many things that where the virtual can bring a new layer. All of a sudden, if you had an event in Italy, you can pull in people from all over the world speaking at your event, which you otherwise couldn't do. We see a lot of our clients really having A-list celebrities on as keynote speakers, which we never saw before. So because now you have to pay for an hour of their time rather than to fly them somewhere and you have to take a week off. So the ability, so looking at those opportunities, I think that's where virtual environments will end up after the pandemic, and it will become a part of that hybrid event. Now, the hybrid event, I talk about the pendulum that swung from physical event to virtual event, and then it will stop somewhere in the middle, and it will stop in a different spot for each organization. Sometimes it's really good to have a really strong physical event, and maybe 90% of your event will be physical, but you now realize that you can add a virtual component relatively easy. And then you have other organizations say, well, we're going to do 90% virtual, but we're adding some hub strategy to add some people being able to congregate in a certain hub. So virtual events are not going anywhere. They're going to be part of that sort of hybrid event strategy that so many of our clients are now preparing for. And we've proven that it can be a very, very effective way to run your conferences.
There's a few questions around this topic. Are media platform analytics passed into 6Connex or vice versa?
So I'll take that one. We limit the due to GDPR requirements and other data requirements. We only pass a very limited amount of data, enough that you can actually tie the two environments and their analytics together, but we don't pass the entire world of data back and forth. So in each system, we'll keep track of like what questions are asked during a live event, poll responses, survey responses, that type of thing. And then on the 6Connex side of things, they'll keep track of their data. And yeah, we just keep a limited amount so we don't have to deal with regulation hurdles and that type of thing.
On that same topic, somebody asked, do you see tighter integration between the platform and analytics in the future?
Well, it's hard to say what's going to happen in the future, and we will always keep in mind the regulations that both sides and the customers have to work under. So, and that world is changing dynamically, right now with GDPR and the California rules that have gone into place, and we'll keep an eye on it.
There's a little bit of a culture clash going on between.
We're not sort of at the point where we can say, okay, we're here and we're on a journey, and our part of that journey is that looking ahead and helping clients planning for hybrid. The hybrid format will be a more complex event format. You have to think about sort of batch printing and batch scanning at the physical event, and how does that work with the people coming into a virtual booth. So in that sense, we're preparing for that. We're making sure it's in our product roadmap to specifically address the future where you will have many more systems talking together and making.
Oh, we lost him.
Right. Oh, we're back.
Yes. Yep. You can do that with this solution. Absolutely.
Okay, can you expand more on what gamification is and how to best leverage it during a virtual or hybrid event?
That's definitely for the 6Connex.
If you could repeat the question there, I couldn't catch it.
Sure. Can you expand more on what gamification is and how to best leverage it during a virtual or hybrid event?
Yeah. You can use so many different things when it comes to gamification. So we have clients that building in really clever treasure hunts, little objects that appear in different parts of the environment that you need to click on at different times. So things like that. You can build out gamification to add scores on different activities. So it's all about sort of managing the kind of expectation, managing the expectations of your attendees, what you want them to do. So gamification is a great tool in that. So you're putting your point scoring towards the kind of activities that you want them to do. So if you want them to spend a lot of time in the exhibit hall speaking to different sponsors, you're going to get high points for that. If you want them to pay close attention to certain presentations, so you're giving high points to that. So very flexible system. You can give points for different activities depending on the type of activity that you want to drive, and then you make that fun. So you make it a little squirrel that come up, or sort of, or whatever it is that works well with your type of event, and you make it look fun, and you make it sort of engaging, and people want to be there. And sometimes they can, when you plan the event, they can sound a little bit gimmicky, but when we have them, it's sort of what everyone is paying a lot of attention to, and there's always a lot of questions in there saying, hey, how many points did you get, and how did you find that extra point? So it's a really good part of bringing in to your virtual event, and to make sure that the content is engaging.
Yeah, Joachim, if I can just add to that, that's just further areas of investment to drive that collaboration and engagement. And it's a perfect translation of these are some of the things that you would do in an intimate setting, in a physical type of event, any kind of corporate setting, right? You have these games to drive the fun activities associated with it. So this is no doubt a translation of that.
This is a very broad topic, and I think both companies can probably comment. Can you share best practices on hosting global virtual events and how this partner enhances that?
Well, we write white papers on this stuff, right? but ultimately, best practices is don't go into a virtual event thinking that it's a subset of a bigger event. The planning involved is very similar in nature, and if you're going to do hybrid, it frankly almost doubles. So you still need that speaker engagement. You still need that sponsorship engagement. You still need the content associated to drive. You still need to market the event. You still need the registration tools. So by no means is this a subset of a larger event. It's just a different way of doing it to maximize the reach and drive that economic impact that I spoke to about, and ultimately carbon footprint as well too. So at a very high level, that would be my suggestion for best practice. But we make a living writing white papers on how best to execute on many of these.
Yeah, and on our side, we've got white papers and tip sheets on it also, and we actually have staff who can help customers make sure that they're following the best practices. So, at a technical level, testing bandwidth, in space is, doing run-throughs, making sure that the speakers are comfortable with going online with video and their content, right? There's, in the virtual world, there's two things to be comfortable with. One is the content that you are presenting. The second is being on video. And you have to, there's tips and tricks to help with both of those that can be incorporated.
Okay, and the last one is probably a good note to end on. We've sort of covered this, but what are the cost savings of hosting a virtual event versus an in-person event with 6Connex and MediaPlatform?
Leave that to you, Joachim.
Darren, again, I have to ask you to repeat that question.
Sure. What are the cost savings of hosting a virtual event versus an in-person event with 6Connex and MediaPlatform?
I don't think that there's that depends on where you set the bar. So we have clients that sort of come to us for a cost-saving reason. And if you're cutting down from having 15 physical events and you're cutting down to having one virtual event, well, then you can spend a lot on that virtual event, and it's still a cost saving. Then you have clients that now have done virtual and they're looking at going into a hybrid, and in the hybrid they're saying, well, we want to pretty much run the same event that we did in the past, but on top of it we want to add the virtual component. Well, then you're going to add costs. So I don't think that's a definitive answer to that. So there are virtual events that can be very cost effective and put together, like our 6Connect launch product is just for that. It's easy to use, fast to deploy, to just add a virtual component if that is what you want with a relatively small budget or impact. And then you can go all the way to doing a 365-day event with lots of interactive content and engaging content, and then you're going to spend more.
Yeah, and I'll just supplement that really quick before we close up. But I would say a different perspective for us was none of our customers were looking to save money at the time. I mean, they had their annual budgets at the time. They were being forced into virtual environments, and they were just simply looking to be able to host an event in a compelling and engaging way. So I think, the ROI information that they've been able to get from that and the cost savings that they've been able to enjoy has been just a huge added bonus for them as they triaged, 2020 and made it through that year in a very effective way. And then going into 2021, those budgets were now dedicated to online virtual events as opposed to in-person events because of the ROI that they were achieving. But I see we're kind of like coming right up to the end of the hour. I have to say, on behalf of Bill and I and the Media Platform team, we're super appreciative of people taking the time to watch this webinar. I think it's a really, really timely topic. It's been great working with 6Connex. We've delivered, as you've heard, to an end customer. So, no one is out there going to be our beta tester for the integration. It's being used at scale. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We both have the ability to resell one another. I think we got out a little bit farther ahead as far as reselling the 6Connex solution because there was some pent-up demand and our customers were coming to us looking for some consultative input. But certainly they're competent at reselling the Media Platform solution as well. And with that, Ruben, I'll turn it over to you if you have any closing sentiments, or Joachim.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mike. I would just encourage all that. Well, first of all, I should thank for an engaging audience and the questions. It very much was an enjoyable discussion over the last 60 minutes. But I would just kind of like to lead the audience. We spoke a lot about topics at a very high level, and much of the detail can be found directly, obviously, with plenty of resources within our organizations. But you can start off by going to our website, or very minimum, and download ebooks, white paper, tip sheets, etc. at 6Connex.com as a good starting point, and a resource or a friendly member will be grateful to be able to help and lead you in the right path. Thank you all. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Hope everyone has a great day.